Hello and welcome, Housewives of True Crime Monday edition. I have a real special case to do today, you guys. It's going to bring me to a Friday episode and then to a next Wednesday episode. And so it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to do this one for you, but let's chat for 1 minute about a couple things. One, if you haven't given a rating or review, please do so. I ask you kindly. And then two, please tell your friends about me. And three, are you coming to CrimeCon? It is 2 weeks away, maybe less than that, a week and a half. No, 2 weeks, I think. I would love to see you there if you are in Denver, if you have a little itch and can get to Denver on September 5th, then please come see me, buy your tickets, and use Housewives at the checkout. And if you are coming to CrimeCon and already have all of your stuff, please tell me, send me a DM, an email, whatever, and I would love to see you. Also, Margot will be there, so if you have listen to my other podcast called The Alternate, which, by the way, we just did the Nicholas Cassotis case. It's not very long. It's a few episodes. Bananas, wild. Go check it out. That is on The Alternate. I actually might drop like an episode or something on this feed just so you could see, but whoa, that guy was totally bananas. And we're also going to start, I think this week, on the Donna Adelson case. You remember she had hired somebody to kill her son-in-law, and now we're going to see if she is going to be found guilty. So that's all over on The Alternate. But by the time this comes out, I will have moved my kiddo to boarding school. I have not told you guys about that. And so it is one of those things that I don't really like to talk about because I'm so sad about it, but it's her dream and I don't want to stop her from it. So I am going to let her do it. And I am terribly sad. So if you guys want to think good thoughts for me, in this crazy transition in our life, please do, because I just, I'm kind of a helicopter mom. Like literally, I follow that Life 360 like a crazy person, and I don't know how I'm going to fare. I think I'm going to have a bad stomach ache every single day of my life. So anyways, that's that. And I think I'll just jump into the case today because it is a little bit long and I want to get through it all so you guys have it on your commute and you don't have to listen over multiple days. So let's get to it. Okay, so this case, you guys, I actually thought about it because I think Gretchen would probably have told this one had she still been here. So it's a financial crimes case, a baseball superstar and his right-hand man and a secret web of illegal gambling. It's the tale of fame, friendship, betrayal, and big money gone missing. We're talking about none other than Shohei Ohtani, one of the most celebrated athletes on the planet. Do you know him? He's on the Dodgers. He's a pitcher. He hits the home runs. He is the man around town. And this erupted around his interpreter, BFF, right-hand man, Ippei Mizuhara. It involves an illegal bookie who has since actually become a friend of mine. His name is Matt. We're going to get to him later. Matthew Bowyer. So buckle up, friends, because this one is a wild pitch for you. Your Shohei Ohtani. He is a once-in-a-generation baseball legend. He is beloved in 2 countries. He's breaking records left and right. You find out that someone close to you has been siphoning off millions of your dollars to feed a high-stakes gambling habit. It sounds unbelievable, but it happened. And in this episode, I am breaking down exactly how this scandal unfolded. Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, formed a familiar duo on and off the field for years. Ohtani, for those of you who do not follow baseball closely, he isn't just any player. He is a global sensation. In 2021, he was unanimously crowned the American League's most valuable player after a historic season as a two-way superstar. He is an elite pitcher and a power-hitting slugger. He pitches like an ace and he hits home runs like a freaking derby champ, okay? I'm telling you, my son is a baseball kid. He loves him and the US loves him. But guess who else loves him? Japan. I mean, he is a sensation in both countries. By 2023, he was the most coveted player in baseball, and he eventually signed, get this, a 10-year, $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the richest deal in sports history at the time. There has, per my son today, I told him the case I'm doing, and he was like, well, there's another one that just signed more. I'm like, okay, well, if you're getting $700 million contract, you're doing real good. Now, navigating life as an international superstar can be tricky. I don't know because I'm not yet one, but if you tell your friends about Housewives of True Crime, maybe one day I will be. But when you are a superstar, you need superstar people around you. And so he decided to get his friend Ippei to be his interpreter. But that title hardly covers who he really was. And in all the articles and stuff, it does say his interpreter, and he was his interpreter, but he also was his confidant, his personal assistant, and his very close friend. Ohtani and Ippei Mizuhara go way back. Their relationship started in Japan around 2013 when Ohtani was just young and he was on the Nippon Ham Fighters, which is Japan's pro baseball team. Mizuhara worked as an interpreter for the team. And when Ohtani made a jump to Major League Baseball in 2018, well, Mizuhara came along for the ride. He helped Ohtani, bridge this language gap. I guess Ohtani still, and to this day, still needs an interpreter, which I'm like, Ohtani, come on, let's go. Like, after this scandal, I'd be like, I am learning the English, so I know exactly what I'm doing at all times. But no judgment, not victim shaming here, I promise you guys. I do feel for the guy. Okay, so over the years, fans actually grew accustomed to seeing Mizuhara. They were kind of like this cool duo. And he was always there. Mizuhara was always there at the press conferences. If you look up any picture pre-2024, you probably can see him right by Ohtani's side. Their bond appeared really strong, more like family than coworkers. Ohtani trusted Mizuhara like I trust no one. Just kidding. Not these days, actually. It's probably true. Okay, in fact, Ohtani was known to be also very generous with him. Court records actually reveal that Ohtani gave Mizuhara lavish gifts, including 5-figure cash tips on the side, a Porsche, covered most of Mizuhara's travel expenses, and even paid this dude's rent. Not your average boss-employee relationship, I would say. And Mizuhara, he was living the high life. Like, come on, who doesn't want to you don't actually have to hit the home runs and have that pressure. You just get all the perks of being around, Major League Baseball players. Awesome. Together, these two navigated, the cultural differences, which are a lot. I mean, listen, I was in Japan. I love it. Actually, my family's favorite country that we've been to. But it's different here. And they had each other. They also had each other around all this media, which, is different, and professional sports. Then in 2023, when all seemed very kumbaya, things were about to explode. According to Mizuhara himself, it started with financial stress, or at least his perception of it. Despite Ohtani's generosity, paying for his rent, all this other stuff, Mizuhara felt like he was severely underpaid. And I'm like saying this in air quotes if you're not watching me on YouTube. He thinks that he is underpaid for his all-consuming job. He was on a 1-year contract that renewed annually, but hence he's been with him since 2013. I don't really think he had anything to worry about. But he claims that he was afraid to rock the boat by asking for a raise because of this contract and he didn't want to, lose his job. This is where things often go wrong in relationships, I would agree. Ohtani is the star and, Ippei is the sidekick that just can't take it. The off-season when Ohtani wasn't playing games was ironically even harder on Mizuhara. Let's just call him Ippei, yeah? In a letter he later wrote to the court, he described in those off months, he still had a laundry list of duties that he had to do, like driving Ohtani to training sessions, taking Ohtani's dog to the vet, fixing Ohtani's bicycle. Almost no, and also this is in quotes, he said, almost no true days off, as he put it. This, I will say, is also where I see the victim card being thrown up by Ippei, but who am I to judge? In Ippei's view, he was an overworked and anxious all the time about money. Hint, probably because he was gambling it all away. Whether or not his financial woes were as bad as he felt, which prosecutors would later cast doubt on that, Ippei looked for a quick fix, and that's when he made a fateful mistake. He turned to sports betting. Sometime in 2021, Ippei Mizuhara found an online sports gambling website run by a bookie named Matthew Bowyer. This wasn't your friendly neighborhood fantasy football pool. It was a full-blown illegal booking operation, which I will get more to on that in just a moment. So Ippei later claimed that he was very naive about gambling and he didn't realize that it was illegal to gamble on this online site. He didn't realize this, actually, he says, until 2024. But regardless, he dove in headfirst. He was desperate for money at the time, he says, and stupidly thought that this might be an opportunity to help himself out financially, and he started to use this website, which was Matt Boyer's website, for sports betting. And before he knew it, the results were complete opposite. Opposite? Yeah, that's right. What started as maybe harmless quickly spiraled into massive gambling habit. Over roughly 2.5 years, from late 2021 to early 2024, Ippei placed a crazy amount of bets, you guys. Like, I can't even. He placed more than 19,000 wagers in total on this website. Yes, you heard that. 19,000. That's an average of like dozens of bets a day. Matt basically told me it's a full-time job. So Mizuhara saying that he was overrun by taking like Ohtani's dog to the vet, that's not adding up, bud. He was living and breathing sports betting, and he was betting to win. This wasn't a hobby. It was an obsession, an addiction, or maybe just both. The amount of money changing hands were actually mind-blowing. Mizuhara wasn't betting pocket change. According to investigators, over that period, he won a lot of money, guys. He won $142 million on these bets. By the way, he was also not betting baseball. He was betting, and which we'll probably get to in a second, or maybe I don't ever talk about that, but he wasn't betting baseball. He was betting on soccer, football, as they call it in other countries. So he won $142 million on bets, which sounds very impressive, like crazy, but he lost $183 million. So let's take a moment with those numbers. He actually hit a lot of wins, but he kept betting until he accumulated even bigger losses. And in the end, he was down nearly $41 million. This was high roller, high risk gambling, the kind of betting that I can't even, I mean, you guys, I take like $100 to Vegas. So I can't even wrap my head around it, but I can imagine people that are billionaires maybe spend this kind of money, maybe not even billionaires, Vegas tycoons, I don't know, but not, an interpreter whose official salary was pretty modest. It's almost hard to even talk about because this is more money than most people will spend in 10 lifetimes. So, of course, with losses soaring into tens of millions of dollars, Ippei was way over his head. Every loss meant he owed money to the bookie, Matt, and those debts were piling up sky high. So where was he getting the cash to keep placing these bets that he owed? I bet you can guess. This is where things cross from reckless to criminal. He began funneling money out of Shohei Ohtani's personal accounts to cover his losses. That's right. Mizuhara treated Ohtani's bank account like his piggy bank to pay off his debts. Remember, as Ohtani's right-hand man, Ippei had access to a lot of sensitive information, even his financial information. Ohtani actually, they set up the bank account together. He was his interpreter. He was interpreting contracts. So why not just put your name on it? You know what I'm saying? According to the plea agreement that Ippei signed, he impersonated Ohtani on phone calls with the bank over 24 times. And he authorized wire transfers of Ohtani's money without Ohtani's knowledge. He literally pretended to be Shohei, saying, "Yes, this is Shohei Ohtani. Please transfer millions of dollars to this account." So between 2021 and November 2021 and March 2024, Ippei made over 40 wire transfers from Ohtani's accounts to various recipients connected to the bookmaker. All told, he stole nearly $17 million from Ohtani. Some people, including my son, were like, it's a drop in the bucket and you have $700 million coming your way. But think about it, $17 million in Ohtani's earnings, gone, siphoned away without Shohei even realizing it, which also is probably because you have a lot of money. But the first one didn't start big. It started pretty small. And when I say small, like a whole year's salary of many people I know. So the first transfer was $40,000, even though, let me tell you, Ippei Mizuhara had $34,000 in his bank account at the time. So he could have paid his initial debt with his own funds, but instead he just decided to dip into Shohei's accounts and take $40,000. Well, from there it escalated to $500,000 here, $500,000 there, until it totaled 8 figures. To Ohtani's team or accountants or whoever, these transfers might have looked like payments for services or investments. I think because Mizuhara was probably covering his tracks well. But apparently for a long time, no one noticed anything amiss, which is kind of scary because, you trust people and you trust that they're actually going to be the gatekeepers, and then they freaking start embezzling money from you, which I think happens more than we know. Now, let's talk about the other character in this saga, Matthew Bowyer. He's an illegal bookie who was happy to take Mizuhara's money because that's what he does. Who was this guy and what kind of operation was he running that one person could just bet hundreds of millions of dollars through it? That's pretty impressive. Well, his name is Matthew Bowyer. He's 50 years old and he's from Southern California. He had been operating a large-scale, unlicensed sports betting business for years. This wasn't a one-man hobby bookie taking bets in his back room at the bar. I'm sure somebody knows somebody like that. Not saying that I do, because I don't, but I do know Matt. Boyer's gambling ring was organized and it was expansive. It was a pretty impressive business, besides the fact that it was illegal. He had hundreds of clients. Boyer's book actually, I think he had more than 700 bettors at a time, including pro athletes, former pro athletes that can actually bet, celebrities, and the richest of the rich. But my question to Matt actually, what was really wrong with the operation that he was running? It sounds like a really good business. I mean, besides taking someone else's money that he didn't know, that wasn't his. But in California, it is illegal. Sports betting is outlawed in California, unlike Las Vegas, where you can go and you can sit at a casino and you can bet on sports teams. You cannot do that in California. So he was running this business illegally because he is not an actual casino. He was violating federal law and breaking California's anti-bookmaking law at the same time. His website was offshore, so were his call centers. And to manage those bets, Bowyer used a Costa Rica-based betting website. This allowed his clients and agents to place and track bets online or over the phone in a way that tried to stay a step ahead of the U.S. authorities. It's like a shadow version of legal sports books, except none of it's taxed or regulated. So that's where the illegal portion comes in. Bowyer didn't work alone. He actually employed agents and sub-agents, including some casino VIP hosts, to recruit high rollers, refer new clients, and handle debt collection. These foot soldiers, who he called beards, got a cut of their losses their players incurred. I talk more about this with Matt actually on Friday, so don't miss that episode. But in other words, if you lost big to Bowyer, the guy who brought you in might pocket a percentage. It's kind of a classic bookie commission structure, which I learned. All this is new to me. I had no idea how this worked before meeting Matt. And so, if you make a little commission, that sweetens the pot for his recruiters to find more big bettors. And here's where it gets even more interesting and kind of casino movie-esque. Bowyer would take his earnings, which are illicit, right, through the casino. In fact, he sometimes literally did business while gambling at the casino himself. He would pay his agents, or his beards, as he calls them, their commissions in casino chips at the casino, and he paid huge sums of money into the casino accounts. How huge? Well, Bowyer admitted that he wired about $9.3 million of his gambling proceeds to Las Vegas casino to pay for gambling markers, basically fronting himself and associates casino credit. By cycling the cash through casino, buying chips, presumably gambling with them or cashing them out, he could make that quote-unquote dirty money look like legit casino winnings. Boyer's operation blended the worlds of illegal bookmaking and the glitzy casino scene. Basically, he's running his bets on his laptop at Vegas Resort's high-limit table, then sliding a stack of chips to one of his beards as payment for collecting a debt. It's like a something out of Casino or Ocean's 11, except it's real life. This guy was real life doing this. It's bananas. So Matt, please, we need a movie. This is going to be a good one. Now, one of Boyer's very lucrative clients was, of course, Ippei Mizuhara. In fact, Ippei turned out to be one of Boyer's most active and ultimately indebted bettors. According to the feds, Bowyer kept raising his betting limits as time went on, essentially giving him more and more rope, digging himself deeper and deeper into the hole. As long as Mizuhara kept on paying, why wouldn't a bookie open up and give him more leverage? By late 2022, Mizuhara owed Bowyer millions in losses and was sometimes late on his payments. Their text exchange, later covered by investigators, showed a range of interactions from casual friendship, like banter, to Bowyer applying some pressure and, saying, like, we need to get the money. Let's get the money. Where is this money? You're falling behind. You're getting in debt. In one instance, when Ippei went radio silent on Matt, he did threaten to go to his boss, Shohei, and say, hey, you're paying this guy. This guy's not paying me. Bowyer knew, that he worked for Ohtani, and actually Ohtani is referred to as victim A in the court filings. This does beg the question if Boyer's threats suggest that he was aware that the money Mizuhara was using likely came from Ohtani. This dangerous game between bookie and the interpreter continued until it couldn't. Both men were in deep. Mizuhara was committing bank fraud to keep these bets flowing, and Bowyer was raking in illegal profits and laundering them as fast as he could. It was only a matter of time before someone noticed and something snapped, and snap it did. The house of cards came tumbling down in March 2024, and it happened in a very modern way. Investigative journalism, don't we love those? Reporters at ESPN got wind of something fishy, specifically suspicious, on wire transfers totaling $4.5 million from Shohei Ohtani's accounts to an illegal gambling operation. When reporters started asking questions, the Los Angeles Dodgers immediately took action. In a statement on March 22nd, 2024, which happens to be my son's birthday, the Dodgers announced that the interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, had been terminated effective immediately. They did not air any dirty details publicly at the moment, but behind the scenes, the implication was clear. They cut him loose without hesitation. Shohei Ohtani, meanwhile, was blindsided by the news. According to Shohei, he found out about Mizuhara's gambling problem only days before the story went public, while the team was in South Korea for some games. The way Ohtani tells it, there was a team meeting prompted by media inquiry about his sports betting, and that is when he learned what had been going on behind his back. So on March 25th, 2024, Ohtani stepped in front of microphones for a press conference with another interpreter translating, since obviously Mizuhara was gone. He said, I am very saddened and shocked that someone who I trusted has done this. He said, I never bet on baseball or any other sports. I never asked somebody to do it on my behalf. And I have never gone through a bookmaker to bet on sports. This was crucial because once the word gambling enters the chat in baseball, well, people's mind goes straight to the specter of Pete Rose, the famous player banned for betting on games. So Ohtani took the opportunity to assure everyone, which is a smart move on his account, that he had zero involvement in any sports betting. And I want to say that the interpreter never bet on baseball either. I'm telling you, it was just soccer. He was obsessed. Investigators also would later confirm that there was no evidence at all that Ohtani knew about or participated in any of these wagers. MLB also launched its own inquiry and found nothing implicating Ohtani in gambling and said he was truly just a victim. Ohtani also said, up until a couple days ago, I didn't even know this was happening. It's really hard to verbalize how I am feeling at this point. And I'm telling you, like, if he didn't know any of this was happening, the gut punch he must have felt when his best friend stole all this money has to be, I don't even care if you have millions and millions and millions of dollars to lose. It's not about that. It's got to be about the trust that you have in somebody. And for them to take advantage of you like that is so sickening feeling. So the immediate aftermath, Ohtani's representatives turned everything over to the law, right? They issued the statement framing that Ohtani clearly was a victim of massive theft and they were cooperating with authorities. Meanwhile, Ippei basically vanished from the public eye as this investigation ramped up. One interesting piece that I wanted to tell you, Ippei tried to claim in an interview that Ohtani had agreed to pay off his gambling debt, suggesting that Ohtani knew about it and had been bailing him out. But within I think like a day, Ohtani's camp denied that and said, no way, this was pure theft and Shohei is a victim. So it looked like this brief spin did not really fly with Shohei's camp, and it soon was backtracked. He even told, Ippei even told ESPN, I want everybody to know that Shohei had zero involvement in the betting. I did not, and he also said he did not know that bookmaking was illegal. He said, I learned my lesson the hard way. I will never do sports betting ever again. Well, let me tell you, please do not. You are clearly not very good at it. Okay, so those were, I think, probably the last public words that we ever heard from Ippei before the courts took over and his fate was sealed by the legal system. Well, while the media frenzy was intense, the focus stayed on the facts. Ohtani was cleared of any wrongdoing. Ippei stole the money and used it in Boyer's illegal betting business. And Matt Bowyer was under federal investigation. Major League Baseball breathed a sigh of relief because they're like, holy cow, I can't imagine getting rid of one of our star players, because you guys, that's probably what would have happened if Shohei was betting on baseball or something, which he wasn't. Okay, so with the cat out of the bag, it didn't take long for the legal hammer to drop on those responsible. The United States, they want their money, you guys. So they are going to get it one way or the other. And so the United States Attorney Office and the IRS had already actually been investigating Boyer's gambling ring for a little while. He actually was raided, which we go into detail about that on Friday. But he was raided in October of 2023 as a broader probe, which I also speak at length to Matt about on Friday. But once Ohtani's millions entered the picture, prosecutors moved pretty quickly to charge both Mizuhara and Matt Bowyer. Ippei Mizuhara faced an overwhelming evidence of bank fraud. He decided to plead guilty rather than fight those charges, which I appreciate. Thank you so much. In June of 2024, he formally pled guilty to one count of bank fraud and one count of filing false tax returns, which, yes, he did not pay any taxes on those millions of dollars that he siphoned off from Shohei. And you bet your bottom dollar that they are going to want that money in taxes. So on his 2022 his income tax return, he had about $137,000 in, his annual income, failed to report the $4.1 million. So he owed the IRS $1.1 million in back taxes. Yikes. After the guilty plea, he had to wait for his sentencing. His legal team actually tried their best to paint a sympathetic picture in hopes of leniency. They argued that Ippei had a long-standing gambling addiction exacerbated by this high-pressure, high-rolling environment of pro sports, which, you guys, I'm like literally playing the world's smallest violin right now for you, Ippei, okay? They submitted a psychological evaluation highlighting that Ippei had otherwise been a law-abiding citizen dedicated to Ohtani's career, which of course. Friends even wrote letters attesting to Ippei's character. And listen, I have had friends steal money from me also. They come in as nice as pie and then they cut you. So as nice as he was, he was not afraid to steal your money. And so I don't think that's very nice. Mizuhara himself wrote a 3-page letter to the judge apologizing first and then explaining, or depending on your view, he was rationalizing his answers. He expressed deep remorse, like he felt terribly guilty, but he saw no other way out of his debt than to use Ohtani's money. And he even mentioned he hopes to help others struggling with gambling in the future. Where's my violin? Seriously, where is my violin? He also described the personal toll that he has ruined his own reputation in both the U.S. and Japan, and that his prison sentence would be hard on his wife and family, which I do agree. I feel terrible, actually, for his family. He did throw himself at the mercy of the court, saying, "I know I messed up my life, and I'm truly sorry for betraying Shohei's trust. Please don't throw the book at me." The prosecution, however, I think felt like me and didn't want to play a big violin, just a small violin. And they were not merciful to him. Federal prosecutors recommended 57 months in prison, which is 4 years and 9 months. They called his fraud deep and extensive, and they pushed back hard on the defense's portrayal of him being an overworked, addicted victim of circumstances. In a rebuttal filing, the U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney pointed out that there was no solid evidence of long-term gambling addiction. It seemed that he just started betting like 2 years before, not like he had this decades-long illness. They also argued that Mizuhara didn't have an enormous pre-existing debt that forced him into this crime. He had some debt, sure, but the leap to stealing millions was his own choice. The prosecutor noted that instead of using his letter to simply apologize, he spent a portion of it complaining about his workload and his pay, almost as if he was blaming Ohtani or the job for his behavior. Well, you can imagine that did not sit well with the government. In their view, this was a man who methodically stole a fortune from a friend who trusted him and only came clean when he was caught. So they have no mercy. On February 6, 2025, Ippei Mizuhara finally had the day of reckoning in federal court in Santa Ana, California. Judge John Holcomb delivered a sentence of 57 months in prison on bank fraud and 37 months on the tax count to be served at the same time. So lucky him, just 57 months. So nearly 5 years behind bars. He'll be out, in probably 2. The judge also tacked on 3 years of supervised release after prison and ordered Mizuhara to pay over $16 million in restitution to Ohtani and $1.15 million to the IRS. I don't think Ohtani ever thinks he's going to get that money, but good luck. Plus some fines for good measure. Mizuhara, who had been out on bond, was given until March 2025 to surrender and begin his sentence. And being a Japanese national, although he is a U.S. resident, he does face potential deportation after serving his time, meaning he might be sent back to Japan and barred from returning to the U.S. He's not a violent criminal. So, and I can't imagine anybody's going to be giving him their bank details anymore. So I don't really think he's a risk or a threat to our environment. So we will see what happens. I mean, this is definitely a very, very white collar crime, if you would have to ask me. And so I think, uh, I speak to, on Friday is Matt's interview, and then the next Wednesday, I'm going to release an episode with a guy named Michael Santos. And we speak a little bit about judgment and justice and what actual justice is. And do we believe that 5 years behind bars is justice for this crime? Do we believe that we need 5 years? What do we need to make sure that, this guy isn't going to come back and steal other people's money? I don't think he is. I'm pretty sure he probably learned his lesson. So 5 years, is that too much? I don't know. You tell me. Ippei Mizuhara spoke briefly at his sentencing, saying he was not trying to justify his actions and that he was prepared to accept his punishment. Ohtani himself did not appear in person, but he did submit a victim impact statement that was sealed from public view, so we do not get to know what he said. However, prosecutors relayed that Ohtani was harmed substantially by what had happened, and he felt deeply betrayed. The judge even commented how shameless Ippei Mizuhara's conduct was. He said, "Mr. Mizuhara lied, he cheated, and he stole." He emphasized how Ohtani had been preyed upon by someone he should have been able to trust. One revealing exchanges, Mizuhara's attorney tried to make it sound like Mizuhara, Ippei, whatever his name is, was an underpaid, stressed out worker, but Judge Holcomb was not buying any of it. He pointed out that Ohtani gave him extremely generous perks like the Porsche and these big tips and covered so many of his expenses. And he noted that Mizuhara had tens of thousands of dollars in his bank account when he first started stealing from Ohtani. So the sob story of him being destitute really did not hold water. So in the end, the court sent a clear message that no amount of personal stress justifies this level of deceit. Now, let's shift to Matt Bowyer, the bookie, for a second. His legal journey was a bit different because the feds leveraged him for information. That's right. Bowyer was charged with operating an illegal gambling business, money laundering, and filing false tax returns for that unreported income. In August 2024, he agreed to plead guilty to all 3 counts, no doubt hoping to get a lighter sentence, of course, by cooperating. He formally entered his guilty plea on August 9th, 2024, and he openly admitted in court, "I was running an illegal gambling operation, laundering money through other people's bank accounts," and basically he came clean to the judge. Initially, based on the charges, Bowyer could have been looking at a very hefty sentence. Listen, I'm telling you, the feds want their money. The United States does not like people holding money from them. So he theoretically could have gone to prison for decades. But in reality, federal sentencing guidelines for someone like him with no serious priors probably put him in the range of, I don't know, like say 5 to 10 years. But here's where cooperation comes in. By helping the government, Bowyer stands to knock that down even further. So Matt did help the prosecutors, and they appreciate him for that. He apparently gave them some inside scoop on text messages and helped them execute search warrants on other bookmakers and possibly casinos. He handed over data from his devices, and according to Bowyer, he spilled information on some casino executives and some hosts that were involved in some shady practices at Resort World Las Vegas. He did draw the line at naming any of his gambler clients or bookie friends, focusing only on exposing the dirty casino side of things. This cooperation was very valuable to the feds and extended beyond just the Ohtani Mizuhara case into the broader casino money laundering inquiries. Thanks to this, Bowyer is hoping for a lighter sentence. How long, you ask? Well, as of August 18th, which was just yesterday, I read a news article that federal prosecutors have asked the judge to give Bowyer just 15 months in prison for everything. 15 months. That's basically a year. I mean, less than a year if he has all good days for this gambling and money laundering operation. So why so lenient, you ask? Well, the government cited Boyer's lack of prior criminal history and the significant help he provided in getting other bookies, Mizuhara casinos. In other words, Bowyer turned himself into a key witness, which is what I say, always be the first. And this helped the feds crack open the case, so they're cutting him a big break. At 50 years old, he's likely to serve his time in prison and move on, which he's going to do. Matt himself, I know, has mixed feelings about this. He has a family. He has a 5-year-old or 4-year-old little boy. He has a 14-year-old daughter like me. He has, he's got a family of his own. And he also says he doesn't want people to look at him like a rat. Nobody likes being labeled as a snitch in those circles, but he also expressed that it's been really relieving to take responsibility, and he just wants to put this chapter behind him. He has, paid all of his restitution. He's paid all of his taxes. He's paid everything that he's owed to the government. And so he's looking at spending far less time than Ippei and the Clink, which I think is good. And by the way, rightfully so, I do not think he should spend the same amount of money as Ippei Mizuhara in the Clink. He was taking people's money, although illegal in the U.S. sense, people were giving it to him. He was not taking people's money behind people's backs. He was not stealing their money. Matt's story really, I'm telling you, is an incredible one, and I am lucky enough to know this guy. Although I know he is a criminal per se, but one that has a lot of lessons that we all can learn from. He has really lived the highs. He has lived the lows. He has taken his bets, no pun intended, and he's paid his debts. So, like I said, he's paid all of his taxes. He's paid everything he's owed. And he has personally has lost millions of dollars in what people owed him, because let me tell you, who doesn't pay their bets? All your clients, once you get in trouble. Once he got in trouble, they were like, peace out. Thanks, I don't owe you any money. Check you on the other side. I don't want to tell you too much more about Matt, because I do want you all to hear it from him first on Friday, which is the day that he will be sentenced. I will release his episode this Friday, August 29th, 2025. Matt also wrote an amazing book called Recalibrate. Please go and buy it. It's on Amazon. It is a great read. It's a movie, you guys. This guy, it's a good story. You will not be able to put it down. He has lived such a wild, wild life. And as much as we all love gambling, I have to tell you, Matt doesn't gamble any longer. And if you have a problem gambling, you probably shouldn't do it. I'm just going to give you a PSA right now. Just like if you have a problem drinking, you probably shouldn't do it. Gamble responsibly, drink responsibly, and if you can't do either of those responsibly, then just don't do it at all. And I think that's all for today. I will see you on Thursday if you are on my Clink Clink Club or on Patreon. And if not, then I will see you on Friday for this very special episode with Matt Bowyer, the bookie in this deal. And he is going to get into a lot more of what happened, what went down in his life. Clink, clink.